Never. We are Vraxians. We do not surrender. Then we will be extinct. The President Haiwan stood before the assembled Galactic Council, her image broadcast to every corner of known space. The council chamber was packed with delegates from hundreds of worlds, all waiting to hear what Earth's leader would say. The war had been raging for 3 months. Vraxian casualties had reached 70% of their total military forces. Their empire was in collapse. Members of the Galactic Council, Haiwan began, her voice calm and measured. You asked for this emergency session to discuss Earth's conduct in this war. I am here to address your concerns. The Tholian ambassador stood immediately. President Haiwan, your species has violated every standard of civilized warfare. The destruction you have inflicted is beyond anything the galaxy has seen in millennia. We violated no laws, Haiwan responded. We never signed your conventions on warfare because we knew they were inadequate. We write our own rules for war and we follow them strictly. Your rules allow for mass destruction. Our rules allow us to win. Haiwan's expression hardened. Let me be clear about something. We didn't want this war. We never do. War is the worst thing humans can experience. We know this because we've experienced it thousands of times. We've written countless books about its horrors. We've built memorials to its victims. We teach our children about its terrible costs. She paused, letting that sink in. But when war comes to us, we don't fight halfway. We don't play games with it. We finish it, completely, decisively. Because the fastest way to end a war is to win it so thoroughly that it can never start again. Commander Hyunwoo stood beside her, now serving as chief negotiator. He pulled up a holographic display showing casualty figures. The Vraxians have lost 70% of their military forces. But notice something. Civilian casualties are less than 1%. Every human soldier carries orders to protect non-combatants. We have field medics treating wounded Vraxian civilians. We have supply ships delivering food to refugee camps. Lieutenant Bora, now a full diplomat, added her voice. We separate the Vraxian people from their government. We fight soldiers, not children. We destroy military targets, not homes. This is how humans wage war. Brutal against combatants, merciful toward civilians. Ambassador Dalnim studied the human delegation carefully. She had spent months researching Earth's military history. The pattern was consistent. Humans fought with devastating efficiency against military targets while maintaining strict codes about civilian treatment. It was the paradox that defined them. The council speaker raised a hand for silence. The question before us is whether to intervene militarily to stop Earth's offensive. That would be a mistake, Dalnim said quietly. Every delegate turned to look at her. I have studied human warfare extensively. If the Council attacks Earth, they will consider it a new threat and respond accordingly. We cannot win that war. Surely you exaggerate, the Tholian ambassador protested. No, I don't. Dalnim pulled up her own research. Humans have a tactical doctrine called deterrence through overwhelming response. If attacked, they escalate immediately to maximum sustainable force. They have weapons they haven't used yet. Nuclear devices, yes, but also biological weapons, chemical weapons, kinetic bombardment systems. They've shown restraint against the Vraxians. They won't show restraint against us if we attack them. Fleet Admiral Jae-sung appeared via hologram, speaking from the human flagship. The ambassador is correct. We are currently operating under conventional warfare protocols with strict rules of engagement. If the Council forces us to defend against multiple fronts, we will shift to total war doctrine. I guarantee you don't want to see that, President Haiwan continued. We are here to present our terms for Vraxian surrender. These are non-negotiable. The terms appeared on displays throughout the chamber. Complete Vraxian military disarmament. All warships to be decommissioned. Military forces reduced to internal security levels only. Reparations to be paid to Earth for the cost of the war. Vraxian leadership to stand trial for crimes against peace. The Vraxian Empire to be dissolved, replaced by a democratic federation. Human observers to oversee the transition for 50 years. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. These terms are unprecedented, someone shouted. These terms are harsh but fair, Haiwan said firmly. The Vraxians declared an aggressive war against Earth. They threatened to enslave our entire species. They fired the first shots. These are the consequences of their actions. You're destroying their entire civilization. No, Hyunwoo said. We're destroying their military dictatorship. The Vraxian people will be better off under democratic rule. They'll have rights and freedoms they never had before. We're not conquering them. We're liberating them from their own government. In a secure location on the Vraxian homeworld, Overlord Threxaval watched the broadcast with his remaining advisors. His empire was crumbling around him. Rebellions had started on several colony worlds. His own people were turning against him, blaming him for the catastrophic war. "We have no choice," his senior advisor said. "We must accept their terms." "Unconditional surrender," Threxaval said bitterly. "In 40,000 years, the Vraxian Empire has never surrendered. Then we will be the first, or we will be extinct. Those are our only options." Threxaval's crystalline form had lost its color, now appearing dull and gray. How did this happen? How did primitives defeat us so completely? They were never primitive, Overlord. We were just arrogant. Back in the council chamber, Bora was explaining the reconstruction plans. Earth will provide economic assistance to help rebuild Vraxian colonies. We'll share medical technology and agricultural techniques. We want the Vraxian people to thrive under their new government. We don't want an enemy. We want an ally. You want to control them, the Tholian ambassador accused. We want to ensure they never start another aggressive war, Bora corrected. There's a difference. We're not interested in empire. We just want to make sure this never happens again. Dalnim spoke up again. I think we need to accept that humanity has fundamentally changed the balance of power in the galaxy. They've demonstrated capabilities that no one expected. We need to adapt to this new reality. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we grant Earth a permanent seat on the council with full voting rights. We make them part of the system instead of keeping them on the outside. We give them a stake in galactic peace. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the council speaker called for a vote. The motion passed narrowly. Earth would receive a permanent council seat. In exchange, they agreed to sign modified warfare conventions that incorporated some human protections for civilians while restricting the most devastating weapons. President HFY accepted the terms gracefully. Earth agrees. We want to be part of the galactic community. We want peace. But understand this, we will defend ourselves if attacked. And we will defend our allies. That's not a threat. It's a promise. 3 days later, Overlord Threxaval formally surrendered. He appeared before the Galactic Council in restraints, his crystalline form dull and broken. Hyunwoo read the terms of surrender aloud while Threxaval stood silent. When it was done, Threxaval spoke for the first time. I have one question for the humans. Speak, Haewon said. Do you feel any remorse for what you've done to my empire? Haewon was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, every single one of us feels remorse. We carry the weight of every life lost in this war. Every human soldier has nightmares about the things they've done. We grieve for your people who died because of your government's arrogance. We take no joy in victory. Then why are you so effective at war if you hate it? Because we understand it, Hyunwoo answered. We know its costs intimately. We've paid them over and over throughout our history. We don't romanticize war. We don't glorify it. We study it with cold precision because we know that understanding warfare is the best way to prevent it. And when we can't prevent it, we know how to end it quickly, Bora added softly. We're good at war because we know exactly what we're doing. We understand the horror. We feel the weight. That's what makes us dangerous. We don't fight blindly. We fight with full knowledge of what war means. Threxaval seemed to process this. I understand now. Your species has turned suffering into wisdom. You've made warfare into a science not because you love it, but because you fear it. Yes, Haewon said simply. We fear war. So we make sure that anyone who brings war to us regrets it. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. The best deterrent is capability combined with restraint. Fleet Admiral Jae-sung, attending the ceremony, spoke up. The human fleet is already beginning withdrawal from Vraxian space. Reconstruction teams are standing by to assist with rebuilding. Medical personnel are ready to treat wounded civilians. We're shifting from war to peace as of now. Dalnim watched the proceedings with a mixture of relief and apprehension. The war was over. Earth had won decisively, but the galaxy had changed forever. A new power had emerged, one that combined devastating military capability with genuine desire for peace. It was a combination that no one had seen before. As the ceremony concluded, she approached Hyunwoo privately. Do you think your species will ever stop being ready for war? Hyunwoo looked tired. The past months had aged him. We hope so. Every human child is Tao. The human counteroffensive began exactly 12 hours after the first battle. The galaxy watched in shocked horror as Earth's military demonstrated what they meant by total war. General Chan Wu stood in the command center on Earth, coordinating ground forces across multiple theaters. His screen showed deployments on 7 different Vraxian colony worlds. The strategy was simple and brutal. Strike everywhere at once, overwhelming the enemy's ability to respond. General, the 4th Marine Division reports successful landing on Vraxia 7, an aide reported. Minimal resistance so far. Tell them not to get comfortable, Chan Wu said. The resistance will come. It always does. He pulled up tactical data on his personal display, studying the colony's layout. 2 million Vraxian civilians, defended by approximately 10,000 military personnel. The humans had landed with 20,000 troops. In orbit around a distant Vraxian colony, Captain Daewon watched from his merchant vessel as human warships materialized from faster-than-light travel. He had been ordered to stay in the area to provide civilian evacuation services if needed. What he saw terrified him. Human ships appeared in flashes of twisted space-time, using FTL technology that was notoriously unstable. The calculations were insanely complex and the failure rate was high. Daewon knew that roughly 20% of ships using this method never arrived at their destination, simply disappearing into whatever lay between normal space and FTL. June, are they really using dangerous jump calculations on purpose? Daewon asked his communications officer. June checked the military channels. Yes, Captain. High Command authorized risky jump protocols. They're accepting 20% losses in transit to achieve strategic surprise. They're sacrificing their own people just to arrive faster? Not sacrificing, Captain. Accepting risk. There's a difference, June's voice was quiet. Every crew volunteered for this. They know the risks. Daewon watched another wave of ships materialize. Some didn't make it. He saw the flash of one ship appearing halfway inside a piece of space debris, the resulting explosion bright against the darkness. But the ships that did make it immediately began deploying weapons platforms and assault shuttles. On Vraxia 7, Corporal Min Seok led his squad through the streets of the colony's main city. The Vraxians had fortified the central government complex, expecting a direct assault. Min Seok's squad had other plans. Plant charges on the support columns, he ordered quietly. Set them for remote detonation. His squad moved efficiently, placing explosive charges at strategic points around a large building adjacent to the government complex. The Vraxians inside the complex watched the government building, expecting the humans to attack it directly. They never considered the humans might bring down the building next to it. Charges set, his demolition specialist reported. Everyone clear the area. Get to minimum safe distance. The squad retreated 3 blocks. Min Seok checked his tactical display, confirming all civilians had been evacuated from the blast zone. Earth's rules of engagement were strict about civilian casualties. Military targets were fair game, but harming civilians was forbidden. Detonate. The building collapsed in a carefully controlled demolition, falling sideways directly into the government complex. The Vraxian fortress was crushed under tons of debris. Min Seok's squad moved in immediately, securing the area before the dust had settled. Target neutralized, Min Seok reported. 0 friendly casualties. Vraxian military casualties estimated at 200. Civilian casualties 0. General Chan Wu noted the report with satisfaction. The humans were using tactics that no other species would consider. They turned civilian infrastructure into weapons. They used the enemy's own environment against them. And they did it all while meticulously avoiding civilian deaths, which somehow made it even more frightening. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Dal Neem watched the tactical reports with growing alarm. She had called for an emergency session, demanding that the Council intervene to stop what was becoming a massacre. The humans are violating every convention of civilized warfare, the Tholian ambassador protested. They're using weapons banned for centuries. Chemical agents, biological weapons, nuclear devices. Actually, Dal Neem said wearily, they're not using any of those. They never signed the conventions that banned them, so technically they could, but they're not. Every weapon they're using is technically legal under galactic law. Then the law must change. To what? Ban kinetic weapons? Nuclear-pumped lasers? Tactical demolition? All of these are standard weapons technologies. The only difference is how effectively humans use them. On Earth, Dr. Soon-hee monitored her latest creation from a secure laboratory. She had developed AI-guided weapon swarms that could adapt to enemy tactics in real time. The first deployment was happening right now over Vraxia 3. The swarm consisted of 10,000 small drones, each no larger than a human fist. They connected through a shared AI network, learning from each encounter and sharing information instantly. As Vraxian fighters engaged them, the swarm adapted. Drones that were destroyed transmitted their final data to the survivors. The swarm learned which tactics worked and which didn't. It evolved in real time. The Vraxian fighters managed to destroy about 3,000 drones. The remaining 7,000 had learned how to counter every Vraxian tactic and proceeded to eliminate the entire enemy fighter squadron. The swarm then moved on to its primary target, a Vraxian military installation, and reduced it to rubble in 17 minutes. Soon he watched the data with mixed feelings. Pride in her creation's effectiveness, horror at what it meant. She had built something that learned how to kill more efficiently with every encounter. It was brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. The galaxy's media networks broadcast constant updates. Every species with communication technology watched as humanity demonstrated capabilities that seemed impossible for such a young civilization. The humans fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Ambassador Dalnim received reports from her intelligence services. Human military doctrine had been partially decoded. What they found was disturbing. Humans divided warfare into categories: conventional, unconventional, and total. Conventional warfare used standard military forces in traditional battles. Unconventional warfare included guerrilla tactics, psychological operations, and asymmetric strategies. Total warfare meant every resource of a civilization was dedicated to destroying the enemy. The humans were currently using conventional warfare with elements of unconventional tactics. They hadn't even begun total war yet. This was them being restrained. On Vraxia 7, General Chan Wu received casualty reports from all theaters. Human losses were significant but acceptable. Vraxian losses were catastrophic. Every colony world under attack was falling within days. An aide approached with a priority message. "General, we're receiving communication from Vraxian civilians on several worlds. They're asking why we're attacking them." Chan Wu frowned. "Remind all units of civilian protection protocols. We are not at war with Vraxian civilians. We are at war with their government and military forces only." "Understood, sir. But the Vraxian civilians don't understand the distinction. In their entire history, wars have always targeted entire populations. Then educate them. Tell them we'll accept civilian surrenders. Any Vraxian civilian who wants to leave a war zone will be transported safely to neutral territory. Make sure every unit commander knows this." The aide looked surprised. "Sir, the Vraxians declared war on all of Earth." "Yes, and we're better than that." Chan Wu's voice was firm. "We fight soldiers. We don't terrorize civilians. That's what separates us from them." News of Earth's civilian protection policy spread quickly. Vraxian civilians began surrendering by the thousands, trusting human promises over their own government's orders to resist. It was unprecedented. In the council chambers, this development caused even more confusion. "They're winning," the Tholian ambassador said in disbelief. "They're absolutely dominating the Vraxians, and they're doing it while protecting enemy civilians." "It's psychologically brilliant," Dalnim said quietly. "They're separating the Vraxian people from their government. Every civilian who surrenders peacefully is proof that humans aren't monsters. It makes the Vraxian government look incompetent and cruel by comparison. But why? Why fight with one hand tied behind their backs?" Dalnim pulled up a human quote she had found in Earth's military literature. "They have a saying, 'We fight our enemies, not their children.' They genuinely believe in distinguishing between combatants and non-combatants. That's insane. It's inefficient. Maybe. But it means that when this war ends, the Vraxian people won't hate humanity. They'll hate their own government for starting an unwinnable war." Dalnim shook her head in amazement. Humans aren't just thinking about winning the war. They're already planning for the peace that comes after. On the Vraxian homeworld, Overlord Threxfell received the casualty reports with trembling hands. In less than 2 weeks, humanity had captured or destroyed 17 colony worlds. His fleet was scattered and demoralized. His people were surrendering to the enemy in massive numbers, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. His senior military advisor stood before him. "Overlord, I must recommend immediate surrender negotiations." Admiral Su Jin stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. The Vraxian armada had just entered sensor range. 300 warships, all larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, a display of overwhelming force meant to terrify their enemies into surrender. "Weapon status," she said calmly. "All batteries charged and ready." "Admiral," Specialist Young Mai reported from the weapons station. "Nuclear missiles armed, kinetic railguns loaded, point defense systems active. Drone swarms deployed and standing by. Fleet status. All ships report ready. 247 vessels in defensive formation. Fighter squadrons launched and holding position." Su Jin nodded. The numbers looked bad on paper. The Vraxians had more ships, bigger ships, and supposedly better technology. But numbers didn't tell the whole story. Technology didn't win wars. People did, and humans had been practicing war for thousands of years. "Open a channel to the Vraxian flagship," she ordered. War Master Velcros appeared on screen, his massive, crystalline form radiating confidence. "Human fleet, this is your final opportunity to surrender. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance is futile." "War Master Velcros," Su Jin said politely, "I am required to inform you that you are about to make a terrible mistake. We are willing to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this situation." "There is nothing to negotiate. Surrender or be destroyed," Su Jin sighed. "Very well. You were warned." She cut the connection and turned to her crew. "All ships weapons free. Engage at will." Velcros watched the human fleet with satisfaction. They maintained their defensive formation, which meant they would fight but lacked the courage to attack. His ships would sweep through them like a wave through sand. He gave the order to advance. The Vraxian fleet accelerated, moving into attack range. Their energy weapons charged, ready to disable the human ships with minimal damage. Vraxian doctrine emphasized capturing enemy vessels intact when possible. It was more efficient. Then the humans opened fire, and everything Velcros thought he knew about warfare became worthless. The first salvo wasn't energy weapons. It was physical projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The Vraxian shields were designed to deflect energy weapons, not solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. 3 ships simply ceased to exist, torn apart by impacts that released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. "Return fire," Velcros shouted, shocked by the sudden casualties. The Vraxian fleet fired their energy weapons. The humans scattered their formation instantly, ships moving in patterns that seemed random but somehow avoided most of the incoming fire. Those that were hit activated some kind of ablative armor that simply burned away, protecting the ship underneath. Then the human fighter squadrons hit the Vraxian flanks. Wing Commander Ji-hoon led his squadron in an attack pattern that no Vraxian pilot had ever seen. The human fighters flew like they were insane, pulling maneuvers that should have killed their pilots from the acceleration forces alone. They dove into Vraxian formations, fired missiles at point-blank range, and then scattered before return fire could touch them. "What are they doing?" Velcros demanded. "Those acceleration forces should be lethal." His tactical officer checked the readings. "War Master, the human pilots are experiencing forces that would kill most species. They appear to be using some kind of chemical enhancement and pressure suits to survive. They're killing themselves to fight us?" "No, War Master. They're accepting near-lethal conditions to gain tactical advantage." Ji-hoon's squadron claimed 12 Vraxian fighters in the first pass. His body hurt from the G-forces and he could taste blood in his mouth. But his ship was intact and his weapons were still loaded. "All wings reform on me." "We're going again." "Ji-hoon, your medical readings are critical," the carrier controller said. "Return to base." "Negative. We have ammunition and the enemy is still here." "We go again." He swung his fighter around, ignoring the pain in his chest, and led his squadron back into the fight. On the flagship, young Mi coordinated the weapon systems with cold efficiency. Admiral deploying nuclear-pumped laser drones. Approved. A spread of small drones launched from the human fleet. They looked harmless, almost like escape pods. The Vraxian point defense ignored them, focusing on the larger missiles. That was a mistake. The drones positioned themselves around the Vraxian formation and detonated. Each contained a small nuclear device. But instead of just exploding, the energy was channeled through special arrays that converted it into laser beams of incredible power. Dozens of beams lanced out, burning through Vraxian shields and hulls. Velcros watched in horror as his fleet took devastating casualties from weapons that literally destroyed themselves to fire once. What kind of species builds weapons designed to be used only once? A species that values victory over efficiency, War Master, his tactical officer said quietly. The human fleet pressed their advantage. They didn't fight like any opponent the Vraxians had faced. There was no honor in their tactics, no attempt at elegant solutions. Every weapon seemed designed for maximum destruction. Every tactic prioritized killing the enemy over protecting themselves. A Vraxian cruiser tried to close with a human destroyer, planning to use boarding pods. The human ship didn't retreat. Instead, it accelerated straight toward the cruiser. At the last moment, it released a spread of mines and veered off. The cruiser, unable to stop its momentum, plowed straight into the minefield. The explosions tore it apart. They're using kamikaze tactics, Velcro said in disbelief. No, War Master. That ship survived. But they were willing to risk destruction for a tactical advantage. Young Mi coordinated another weapons deployment. Admiral, enemy fleet is attempting to regroup. Request permission to deploy cluster munitions. Granted. Missiles streaked from the human fleet and the Vraxian point defense shot down most of them. But a few got through. And when they reached the Vraxian formation, they didn't explode normally. Instead, they broke apart into hundreds of smaller submunitions. Each submunition had its own guidance system and targeted a different Vraxian ship. The Vraxian point defense couldn't track them all. Explosions rippled through their formation. Velcros made a decision he had never made in 40 years of military service. All ships retreat. Full withdrawal. The Vraxian fleet turned and fled. The humans didn't pursue. They had made their point. Sujin watched the enemy fleet jump away and allowed herself a small smile. Casualty report. 17 ships destroyed, 34 damaged. Fighter losses at 23%. Total personnel casualties estimated at 4,000. 4,000 dead or wounded. Sujin felt the weight of every single one. But they had faced a fleet twice their size and won. The Vraxians had lost over 100 ships. She opened a channel on all frequencies, knowing the Vraxians would be listening. That was our greeting. Come back when you're ready for the actual war. On the retreating Vraxian flagship, Velcros sat in stunned silence. His fleet had just been savaged by an enemy he had thought would be easy to defeat. The casualty reports were still coming in, but he had lost at least 40% of his forces. In one engagement, against a supposedly primitive species, his tactical officer approached carefully. War Master, I have completed analysis of the human weapons and tactics. Report. Every weapon system they used is designed for maximum lethality. They have no stun weapons, no capture weapons. Everything is built to destroy. Their tactics prioritize killing the enemy over all other considerations, including their own safety. Are they insane? No, War Master. They are experienced. Our database has been updated with information about human history. They have been fighting wars like this for thousands of years. This is normal for them. Velcros felt something cold settle in his chest. Fear. Real fear. We need reinforcements. I recommend we need more than reinforcements, War Master. I recommend we surrender. Surrender? To primitives? The tactical officer's color shifted to deep purple, indicating serious concern. War Master, they are not primitives. They are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. They don't just fight to win. They fight to completely destroy their enemies, and they're very, very good at it. Velcros stared at the tactical display, watching the human fleet hold position. They weren't even pursuing. They didn't need to. They had sent their message clearly. This wasn't going to be a war. It was going to be a slaughter. And for the first time in Vraxian history, they weren't going to be the ones doing the slaughtering. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every major news network was broadcasting the same story. Humanity had laughed at a Vraxian war declaration. The response ranged from confusion to outright disbelief. Some species thought humans had gone mad. Others wondered if it was some kind of elaborate bluff. Research analyst Tae Yang sat in her small office on the Council Research Station, surrounded by holographic displays. She specialized in emerging civilizations, and Earth had always fascinated her. The humans were creative, adaptable, and surprisingly friendly for such a young species. But now she had been assigned an urgent task. Compile a complete analysis of Earth's military history. For the Council's emergency session, what she found in the first hour of research made her stop and stare at her displays in horror. The Second World War alone had statistics that seemed impossible. 85 million dead, Entire cities reduced to rubble. Weapons that could destroy everything in a radius of several kilometers. And humans had built dozens of these weapons and actually used them on each other. She kept digging. The information just got worse. Humans had a saying, "War is hell." They had hundreds of sayings about war, actually. Thousands of books analyzing it, millions of hours of video footage showing it. They had museums dedicated to preserving the memory of wars. They taught military history in schools. They had multiple academic disciplines entirely focused on studying conflict. Taeyang had studied dozens of species. Most had wars in their history, yes. But nothing like this. Nothing so systematic. Nothing so thoroughly documented and analyzed. Humans hadn't just fought wars. They had turned warfare into a science. She began compiling her report with shaking hands. Meanwhile, in deep space, Captain Daewon guided his merchant vessel through a routine trade route. The ship was small, carrying luxury goods from Earth to various colonies. His crew consisted of just 5 people, including young June, who handled communications. The proximity alarm blared. "Captain, we have 3 Vraxian scout ships approaching," June said, his voice tight with tension. "They're demanding we stop for inspection." Daewon sighed. He had expected this. The Vraxians were clearly trying to intimidate human vessels as a show of force. "Open a channel." A Vraxian commander appeared on screen, his crystalline form pulsing with authority. "Human vessel, you will shut down your engines and prepare for boarding. Your species has been declared hostile." "Acknowledged," Daewon said calmly. "Before you board, I'm required by Earth protocols to share certain information with you. June, send them the file." June's fingers flew across his console. "File sent." The Vraxian commander looked confused. "What is this?" "Earth's complete military history," Daewon said. "It's about 40 terabytes of data. Battle reports, tactical analyses, weapon specifications, historical documentation, everything. It's all publicly available information, by the way. We're not giving you any secrets. Any civilian can access it." The Vraxian commander's expression shifted from confusion to suspicion. "Why would you share this?" "Because Earth Command wants to make sure anyone who engages with us knows exactly what they're dealing with," Daewon said. He leaned back in his chair. "Go ahead and review it. We'll wait." The Vraxian commander cut the connection. Daewon could see the 3 scout ships maintaining their position, but they had stopped approaching. He knew what was happening. The Vraxians were looking through the data. An hour passed, then 2. The scout ships remained in position but made no moves to board. June looked at his captain nervously. "What do you think they're seeing?" "The truth," Daewon said quietly. "That humanity has been fighting wars longer than most species have had spaceflight." Back on the Vraxian flagship, Overseer Nikthar reviewed the preliminary reports from the scout ship encounter. The data the humans had sent was being analyzed by his tactical team. They had been working for 3 hours and had barely scratched the surface. One of his analysts approached, her crystalline form flickering with uncertainty. "Overseer, we have completed analysis of what they call the Second World War, and the casualty figures must be errors in translation," she said. "The numbers are impossibly high for a pre-space civilization." "Show me." The analyst displayed the data. Nikthar studied it carefully. 85 million casualties. Industrial-scale genocide, cities destroyed by single bombs, entire nations mobilizing every resource for war. The conflict had lasted 6 years and involved most of their planet. "This cannot be accurate," Nikthar said firmly. "Run verification protocols." "We have, Overseer." "Multiple times. The data is consistent across thousands of independent sources. Human historical records, video footage, physical artifacts, personal accounts. All of it confirms these numbers." Nikthar felt something he rarely experienced: doubt. What about their other conflicts? "Still analyzing, but Overseer," the analyst hesitated. "They have detailed records of over 15,000 distinct armed conflicts in their history. They have literally written books on tactics for fighting in jungles, deserts, cities, mountains, oceans, and now space. They have strategies for every possible scenario." "Propaganda," Nikthar said, but his voice lacked conviction. "They are attempting to intimidate us." The analyst said nothing, but her colors showed disagreement. On the Council research station, Taeyang finished her initial report. Her hands were shaking as she prepared to send it. She had included only the most basic information. just the highlights of human military history. Even that was 70 pages long. She attached a summary at the beginning. Humanity's approach to warfare is fundamentally different from any known species. Where most civilizations view war as a regrettable necessity, humans have studied it with the same dedication they apply to art, science, and philosophy. They have created professional military classes. They have schools that teach nothing but military strategy. They have weapons designed with only one purpose: maximum efficient destruction of enemy forces. Most concerning is their concept of total war, where every resource of a society is dedicated to destroying the enemy. No other species practices this. Most species engage in limited conflicts with clear rules and boundaries. Humans have repeatedly shown willingness to sacrifice enormous resources and accept massive casualties to achieve victory. Their history shows a pattern. Humans prefer peace, but when forced into war, they prosecute it with devastating efficiency. They do not fight for territory alone or resources alone. They fight for complete victory. My professional assessment: the Vraxian declaration of war against Earth is a catastrophic strategic error. I strongly recommend immediate Council intervention to prevent what could become the first complete military defeat in Vraxian history. She sent the report to the Council leadership and copied it to every ambassador. Within minutes, her office communication system was flooded with urgent requests for more information. Ambassador Dal Neem read Tai Yang's report 3 times. Each time, she felt more certain that catastrophe was approaching. She had served on the Council for 3 centuries. She had seen wars come and go, but this felt different. She opened a secure channel to the Vraxian delegation. After several minutes, a junior diplomat appeared on screen. "I need to speak with Overlord Threxval immediately," Dalnim said. "The Overlord is busy with war preparations. Tell him that if he proceeds with this war, he will destroy his empire. Tell him I have reviewed Earth's military history. Tell him that humanity is not what he thinks they are." The junior diplomat's colors shifted uncertainly. "I will relay your message, Ambassador." The channel closed. Dalnim sat back in her chair, feeling helpless. She had done what she could. Now it was up to the Vraxians to listen. Back in deep space, the Vraxian scout ship suddenly activated their engines and jumped away without a word. Daewon watched them go with a sad expression. "Captain," June asked, "why did they leave?" "They read enough," Daewon said. "They know now." He looked at his young communications officer. "June, in the next few days you're going to see things that will be hard to understand. You're going to see humanity do terrible things. Just remember that we didn't choose this. They did." June nodded slowly, not fully understanding but sensing the weight of his captain's words. In her office, Taeyang received one more piece of information that made everything worse. Earth had just mobilized its entire military fleet. Every ship, every station, every defensive platform was now on active war status. But they weren't positioning defensively. They were preparing to attack. She sent one more message to the Council. Humanity is not preparing to defend. They are preparing to invade. This is not going to be a war. This is going to be an extermination. The chamber fell silent as Overlord Threxval rose to his full height. The crystalline being towered over every other delegate in the Galactic Council Hall, his body reflecting the dim light in sharp, angry patterns. His voice boomed through the translators, reaching every corner of the massive room. The Vraxian Empire formally declares war upon the planet called Earth and all its territories. The announcement hit like a physical force. Delegates from hundreds of worlds gasped. Some backed away from their podiums. Others began whispering frantically to their aides. In 40,000 years of Galactic Council history, the Vraxians had conquered 847 star systems. They had never lost a war. Their declaration was essentially a death sentence. Commander Hyunwoo sat perfectly still at the human delegation's table. Beside him, Lieutenant Bora had gone completely rigid, her hands gripping the edge of her datapad. Every eye in the chamber turned toward them, waiting for the inevitable response. Most species begged when the Vraxians declared war. Some tried to negotiate. A few simply fled the chamber in terror. Hyunwoo's shoulders began to shake. Threxval continued his declaration, listing Earth's supposed crimes and inadequacies. Your primitive technology makes you unworthy of independent status. Your military capabilities are laughable. Your weapons are outdated. Your defenses are minimal. We grant you 72 hours to surrender unconditionally and accept vassalage under Vraxian rule. The shaking in Hyunwoo's shoulders intensified. A strange sound escaped his throat. It took a moment for the other delegates to recognize it. He was laughing. The sound started small, almost like a cough. Then it grew. Within seconds, Commander Hyunwoo was laughing so hard he had to brace himself against the table. His face turned red. Tears formed in his eyes. The laughter echoed through the silent chamber, completely inappropriate and utterly shocking. Bora tried to maintain her composure, but her own shoulders began shaking. She bit her lip hard, trying to suppress it, but a snort escaped. Then another. Within moments, she had buried her face in her hands, her entire body trembling with suppressed laughter. Threxval stopped mid-sentence. His crystalline form shifted colors, moving through the Vraxian spectrum of confusion and anger. You dare mock this declaration? Hyunwoo tried to speak but dissolved into another fit of laughter. He waved his hand apologetically, gasping for air. Bora had to excuse herself from the chamber entirely, nearly running for the exit as her professional composure shattered completely. Ambassador Dal Nim of the Quillen delegation stared in absolute bewilderment. In her 3 centuries of diplomatic service, she had never witnessed anything like this. Species responded to Vraxian war declarations with fear, anger, or desperate diplomacy. Never laughter. Never this genuine, uncontrollable mirth. Commander Hyunwoo, the council speaker said firmly, "You will explain yourself immediately." Hyunwoo finally managed to take a deep breath. He wiped tears from his eyes with the back of his hand, still chuckling. "I apologize," he said, though his voice still shook with amusement. "I apologize truly. It's just, oh God." Another laugh threatened to escape, but he fought it down. "It's just that this is possibly the funniest thing that's happened in human history." The confusion in the chamber intensified. Threxval's form flashed angry red. "You find your impending destruction amusing?" "No, no," Hyunwoo said, waving his hand. He took several deep breaths, trying to compose himself. "I find your complete and utter lack of research amusing. Tell me, Overlord Threxval, did you actually study Earth before making this declaration?" "We studied your military capabilities," Threxval said coldly. "Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your fleet numbers less than 1,000 ships. Your weapons are crude." The analysis was simple. "Did you study our history?" Hyunwoo asked. "History is irrelevant to military assessment." Hyunwoo started laughing again. He couldn't help it. "Oh, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect." He stood up, still wiping his eyes. "Overlord Threxval, members of the Galactic Council, let me tell you something about humans. We're a young species, yes. We've only been in space for about 200 years. We've only been part of this council for 50. He walked toward the center of the chamber, his boots clicking on the polished floor. Every delegate watched him with rapt attention. "But in our relatively short history on our home planet, do you know what we did? We perfected war." He said the last word with sudden seriousness, all traces of humor gone from his voice. "We didn't just wage war. We industrialized it. We studied it. We wrote thousands of books about it. We created schools dedicated entirely to teaching it. We built weapons designed for one purpose only, killing each other as efficiently as possible." Dalnim felt a chill run down her spine. She had read about Earth, but only the cultural reports, the art, the music, the literature. Nobody had mentioned this. "We fought 2 wars we called World Wars," Hyunwoo continued. "The second one killed between 70 and 85 million people. That's million with an M. We developed nuclear weapons and actually used them on each other. We created chemical weapons so horrible that we banned them among ourselves, not because we couldn't make them, but because they were too effective." The chamber had gone deathly silent. "We've fought hundreds of smaller wars. We've developed tactics and strategies for every possible scenario. Urban warfare, naval warfare, air warfare, space warfare, guerrilla warfare, psychological warfare, economic warfare. We have a concept called total war, where every single resource of a nation is dedicated to destroying the enemy." Threxval's color had shifted to an uncertain purple. "This is propaganda. Primitive species do not possess such capabilities." "That's what makes it so funny," Hyunwoo said, and there was no humor in his smile now. "You looked at our technology and assumed we were primitive. You never asked why a species with our advancement level would have such crude weapons. The answer is simple. We don't need fancy weapons. We're really good with the basic ones. He walked back to his table and picked up his data pad. You've given us 72 hours. We accept your declaration. We'll see you in 72 hours. He paused at the chamber exit and turned back. Oh, and Overlord Threxaval, you really should have done your research. Ask any historian here about Earth's military history. Ask them about Napoleon. Ask them about the world. Wars. Ask them about Vietnam or Afghanistan, or any of the dozens of conflicts where a supposedly weaker force absolutely brutalized a stronger one through sheer determination and tactical flexibility. He left the chamber. Bor rejoined him in the hallway, her face finally serious. Did you have to laugh? She asked quietly. I couldn't help it, Hyunwoo said. They declared war on us like it was a formality. Like it was a game. He shook his head. They're about to learn that humans don't play games with war. We end them. Back in the chamber, Ambassador Dal Nim immediately opened her personal database and began searching for Earth's historical records. What she found in the first 5 minutes made her blood run cold. She sent an emergency message to her homeworld. Do not engage with humans militarily under any circumstances. Then she began composing a message to the Galactic Council. If the Vraxians attacked Earth, this wouldn't be a war. It would be a massacre. And she wasn't entirely sure which side would be doing the massacring.